And there you go. Now the Premier is issuing a challenge to all Albertans as we got the long-awaited scenarios. Under a probable scenario that they're calling it, Alberta will see as many as 800,000 infections and between 400 and 3,100 deaths. In an elevated scenario, Alberta could see as many as 1 million infections and between 500 and 6,600 deaths. It's up to all of us to keep this flat. Now let's join Duane Bratt, a political science professor and chair in the Department of Economics, Justice and Policy Studies at Mount Royal University in Calgary. Tell us what you think of the economic picture that was painted for us tonight.
Basically, Premier Kenney talked about the health crisis, the economic crisis, and the energy crisis. On the economic side, he said that we're going to have to maintain a lot of these restrictions around public gatherings, social distancing, until at least the end of May. Otherwise, we will see those elevated numbers that you just referenced. And so he said that's why the restrictions need to be in place. Otherwise, we would be looking at thousands of deaths in the province.
Right. Now, on the economy side of things, as we know, Alberta has been hit for a while now. He referenced 5 years. He also said we might be selling our energy at a negative. He said we'll be paying
negative
people
pricing
to take it away.
That is,
I've never heard that said before.
I've never heard that term before, and basically we don't have the storage capacity. And so I thought he might reference production cuts, and I think production cuts are better than negative pricing, essentially leaving it in the ground instead of paying people to take it. He did talk about that the low prices were due to COVID-19, but also the Russia-Saudi Arabia price war. He referenced some of the actions that is being taken, such as trying to create a North American energy market, and his work with both the federal government and as well as the United States. And he talked about his investment into the Keystone XL pipeline. And I think, I'm not sure what is scarier, the idea of the health pandemic or the idea of negative pricing.
Now, earlier on today, in a conference call with energy leaders, he did say, quote, I fully expect unemployment in Alberta to be at least 25%, at least 500,000 Albertans, and it could be significantly higher. He didn't mention that in tonight's speech. What are your thoughts on those numbers, and why do you think he left it out of tonight's speech?
I don't know why he left it out of tonight's speech unless he thought there was just so much other bad news that he was giving. But the 20 to 25% unemployment does not surprise me. We were sitting at unemployment close to 10%. Then you're dealing with this massive drop in energy prices, let alone the shutting down of bars, restaurants, retail stores. It's like the Great Depression in the sense that, people get laid off, so they stop buying less, so that creates less demand, so that leads to more layoffs, which leads to less demand. He did note that Alberta is going to suffer this longer and deeper than other parts of the country. We've been dealing with, as he mentioned, a tough 5 years, but we may look back at 2017, 2018 and say, those might have been the glory years. We are going to go through a really rough patch here. He talked about budget deficits of over $20 billion, and there is going to be a reckoning. He didn't talk about how they're going to deal with that reckoning, but bear in mind, we're going to go into heavy debt. And I was also surprised there's nothing about the federal proposed bailout of parts of the oil sector. I know that's been under negotiations. Prime Minister Trudeau has referenced it several times, but people are starting to get anxious on where that program is, when it is coming, and who it is going to help.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your insights into the Premier's address tonight. Mr. Bratt, we'll talk to you a little later.